Cristiano Ronaldo, Nani, Figo, Bruno Fernandes. These are just some of the most well-known players that have been at Sporting at one point in their careers. Each one of these players have gone on to individual or team success. In this video, I'm going to take you through 10 football players that you didn't realise had worn the green and white Osleoige and what they achieved at Sporting. While most Sporting fans might know a lot of people on this list, there might be a few that slip by, or maybe you're not a Sporting fan and just want to test your ball knowledge. I'm Sam Fonseca from All Things Alvalade, and here are 10 players that you didn't know signed for Sporting. Honourable mention, Pepe. Pepe is undoubtedly not just a Porto legend, but a legend of the sport in general. If you look past his attempts at murder on the pitch, he's a very well decorated footballer, winning 3 Champions Leagues with Real Madrid, a European and Nations League trophy with Portugal, and a 4-time Portuguese League champion, among other accolades he's won along the way. But the reason Pepe is an honourable mention is that he technically never had an official contract with Sporting, but was taken on trial in 2002, even training alongside his future Real Madrid and Portugal teammate Cristiano Ronaldo. However, manager at the time, Lazo Bolini, deemed him not good enough to earn a contract. Quote, Pepe came to see me in my office and begged me because he really wanted to stay. It was terrible for him, but I told him he had to pack his bags, recalled the Romanian coach. You'd have to think what could have been one of the best centre-backs of this generation for Porto and Portugal, as well as Real Madrid, could have started his career at Sporting, and he could have returned to Sporting instead of Porto, maybe even lifting the league title instead of Coates under Ruben Amorim. What a weird timeline that would have been. Number 10. Michael Ciani. Ciani spent the majority of his career playing in Ligue 1, France's top flight division, where he made over 200 appearances, including over 100 appearances for each FC Lorient and FC Bordeaux. In addition to those two, he also represented SS Lazio in Italy. Ciani ended up at Sporting on a free transfer. Actually, in a fun fact, he was the first transfer under manager George Jesus in 2015. However, the French centre-back didn't adapt well to life in Lisbon and left just 28 days later. He was released on a free where he joined Espanyol, where he unfortunately only played 3 games that season before being released again. The French centre-back is now retired after a short stint in the MLS with LA Galaxy. Number 9. Stefano Sturaro. Another one that never actually played an official game for Sporting, Sturaro signed for Sporting in the summer of 2018 after the madness of the Alcochete attacks. Which, by the way, if you want to hear more about, make sure to check out the Hour documentary on the channel. The midfielder arrived on loan from Juventus, where he's a 4-time Italian champion with the Old Lady, also winning 4 Italian Cups. The deal looked to be a potential coup for Sporting, having someone with a lot of experience, but the Italian powerhouse arrived with an Achilles injury, not playing a single game until January, where he was sent back to the Allianz Stadium that same month. He ended up rejoining Genoa for 16 million euros from Juventus, where he's still with them now as captain, leading them back to the promised land of Serie A after being in Serie B for the 22-23 season. Number 8. Fernando. Now I promise this list isn't just for people who never played a single game for Sporting, but Fernando is another awful loan signing made in the 2019 season, 1 year after the Sturaro nightmare. Fernando arrived in Alvalade from Shakhtar Donetsk in 2019, touted as a skillful Brazilian player. Sporting were looking for their next diamond, but instead just got dirt. On the transfer deadline day in 2019, he was brought in with Jesse Rodriguez and Yannick Bolasie. All 3 of them were brought in to be strikers. However, he only played 15 minutes in Sporting's jersey in the 1-1 draw in a training game on November 2019. His loan was then terminated and he was sent back to Shakhtar. However, Fernando seemed to have found his feet, signing for RB Salzburg in Austria, signing their last season for 6 million euros, winning the Austrian league in his first attempt. At age 24, he still got the whole world at his feet. Let's see where he'll end up. Did Sporting scouts have a point in trying to sign him, and was he just unlucky? Number 7. Peter Schmeichel. The Great Dane is deservedly acknowledged as one of the best goalkeepers of all time, winning the Euros with Denmark in 1992, winning the treble with Man United in 1999, as well as 5 league titles with the Red Devils. Schmeichel decided to leave English football at the end of the 1998-99 season. The Dane then joined Sporting, where he signed a 2-year contract, and in his first season he won the 2000 Premier League title, putting an end to the team's 18 years without a championship. At the end of the season, Schmeichel actually agreed to terminate his contract with Sporting and go back to Man United, but Sir Alex Ferguson called off the move due to Fabien Barthez, as Sir Alex Ferguson called him the future. The contract issue with Sporting was quickly resolved and he continued for a second season in Portugal. But even after a poor 2000-2001 season, Schmeichel wanted to stay at Sporting, but eventually decided to leave the club when his contract expired in June 2001, joining Aston Villa, then Manchester City, where he eventually retired. Still, definitely a sporting legend as well as a football legend in general. Number 6. Felipe Caicedo. Caicedo was described by his manager at FC Basel as one of the great South American talents, and was also compared to the Brazilian Adriano. In 2008, Man City signed Caicedo from Basel for £5.2 million, but he ended that season with only 10 appearances in the Premier League, all of them coming in on as a substitute. At the start of the 2009-2010 season, Caicedo left City in order to get more game time, especially after City signed Santa Cruz, Adebayor and Carlos Tevez. On the 23rd of July 2009, Sporting signed him on a 1-year loan with an option to make the deal permanent. Caicedo made his debut for Sporting after coming on as a substitute for an injured Helder Postiga in the 38th minute of a 2-1 loss versus Braga on the 22nd of August 2009. But in that same game, he suffered a stretched ligament injury, which ruled him out of action for 3 weeks. Caicedo made his return to Sporting against Ensu on the 21st of September 2009 and provided the assist on a Vucevic winning goal in a 3-2 victory. However, he found it difficult to adapt in Lisbon, and his loan deal was cut short in January 2010. In total, the Ecuadorian played 11 games for Sporting, but failed to score in any game. Caicedo played over 100 games for Lazio, winning the Italian Super Cup twice, the Italian Cup once, and even having a short stint at Inter Milan where he won another Italian Cup. And in a fun fact, he actually won the same amount of Italian Cups as Adriano. Number 5. Dani. No, not our resident Dani Saldana over here at All Things Alvalade, but the former Portuguese international, Dani. Dani spent most of his career in Russia, playing for Dynamo Moscow, winning 2-time Player of the Year in 2005-2007, but Dani is arguably a legend for his time at Zenit in Russia, playing 177 games and scoring 52 goals, as well as being a 3-time Russian League champion and winning the UEFA Super Cup. But before his dominance in Russia, he was signed from Maritimo to Sporting in 2002 for €2 million, quite a big fee at the time. However, he never forced his way into the starting 11, only playing 7 games before being sent back on loan to Maritimo, then being sold to Dynamo for €3 million. But the egg was on Sporting's face, as then he was sold to Zenit for an eye-watering €30 million, which made him the most expensive player of the Russian Premier League. For me, Dani is a streets will not forget player. Obviously a good player, but spent most of his career in Russia, not really getting the achievements he deserves. He could have gone back to Portugal, or maybe gone to Spain, Italy or England to show his dominance. However, we're always thinking what could have been with Dani. But still, we prefer Dani Saldana over here anyway. Number 4. Sylvester Varela. From one former Portuguese international to another, Varela was a product of Sporting's academy, Alcochete, and despite being a regular with the Portugal under-21s and having enjoyed himself decent form in various tournaments, he was not able to secure a place in the Sporting first team, only managing 2 substitutes appearances in 2005-2006 season. In July 2008, he was sold to Estrela da Amadora. Before the season was over though, in March 2009, he signed a 5-year agreement with champions FC Porto on a free transfer, where he then made 236 appearances for the Dragões, scoring 50 goals and winning the Europa League, 3 Portuguese League titles and 2 Taças de Portugals, as well as 5 Portuguese Super Cups. Is this another what could have been? Who knows. Number 3. Emiliano Insua. The Argentine left-back had a great career, lining up some of the biggest clubs in the world, but Insua first started his career at Boca Juniors, making his way to Liverpool in 2007, and in December 2008, Ensu actually got a run at games with the Liverpool first team, and found himself starting in Liverpool's opening 6 Premier League games and the first tie of their Champions League campaign. He scored his first goal for the Reds against Arsenal. In 2011, Sporting signed Insua on a 5-year deal after he'd been on loan to Galatasaray from Liverpool. And Insua made his debut and got off to a flyer, scoring in his debut against FC Zurich in the Europa League. And on the 29th of September 2011, he scored again, scoring once against Lazio, again in the Europa League. He played 37 times for Osleois, and Ensu impressed so much, he got the attention of Atletico Madrid, and joined the season after for €3.5 million. But he found most of his form playing for Stuttgart, playing 125 games for the German club, as well as playing for big names in LA Galaxy and currently Racing Club in Argentina. Another one of the streets will not forget players for me. Number 2. Sunil Chitri. Whilst you might think, who? Sunil, statistically, is one of the best players of all time. He holds the record for number of appearances for the national team and scoring 85 goals for India. He is not only the top scorer in the history of the Indian national team, but also the 5th top scorer in international competitions in the world, with names like Ronaldo and Lionel Messi only having more goals. Sunil Chitri is considered one of the best footballers in Asian history, winning the Intercontinental Cup twice and the AFC Challenge Cup. He signed for Sporting in 2012, but made his most of his games in the Sporting B team. He made his debut in the Portuguese 2nd Division against SC Fremund, in which he came in at the 85th minute. But in 2013, Chitri was unhappy with his lack of game time and lack of progression, and he was loaned to Churchill Brothers FC in India, then left Sporting on a free transfer the season after. He's a 7-time Indian Footballer of the Year, as well as being a 3-time Indian champion, one of the GOATs of Asian football. What a man, Sunil Chitri. Before I get into number 1, please let me know if you didn't know or forgot that any of these players had signed for Sporting. And if you enjoyed the content, please subscribe and like the video. Anyways, on to the final man. Number 1, Frank Rijkaard. Frank Rijkaard is regarded as one of the best midfielders of all time. If you were too young enough to watch him, ask your elders, how good was Frank Rijkaard? And I'm sure they'll sing his praises. A Champions League winner, a European champion, 5-time Eredivisie winner, 2-time Serie A winner. The accolades speak for themselves. But did you know he signed for Sporting? Rijkaard stayed at Ajax for 7.5 seasons, playing 205 games, but in September 1987 would have been Frank Rijkaard's 3rd season under manager and football legend Johan Cruyff as head coach. Rijkaard stormed off the training field after an argument and vowed never to play for Ajax again, whilst Johan Cruyff was manager. He was immediately signed for Sporting. Sporting thought they just pulled off a masterstroke. One of the best midfielders of the generation, manager Keith Birkinshaw had the Dutchman joining names such as Carlos Xavier and Paulinho Cascaval. However, there was one small detail they missed. Frank Rijkaard had signed too late to be registered in any competition and was ineligible for that season. He was immediately loaned out to Real Zaragoza, but upon completing his first season at Zaragoza, he was immediately signed by AC Milan, where he played 142 times for the Rossoneri. Sporting made €3 million off the sale, but I know I've said it twice already, but what could have been? Sporting could have had Frank Rijkaard regarded in the same way as the Cinquilinos and Ronaldo, among other legends. This was a generational talent. Like I said, one of the best midfielders of all time and of that generation. Sporting could have had a great on their hands, and possibly could have led them to European and league success. But what I will say, that turn of events is typical Sporting.